everyone, it's Brandy from Brandy Burrow Astrology, back with Ellie Adams from Saturn Season Astrology. Welcome, Ellie.
Thanks for having me back.
Can't wait to talk about this one, the murder of Brian Jones, or I should say the death, because it's not officially ruled a murder, but we're going to get into that. So Brian Jones of the Rolling Stones, my favorite Rolling Stones member, by the way. So I'm going to be a little, Brian Jonesy on this. Died by drowning in 1969, right at the time he was leaving the band, the Rolling Stones. Of course, different views. I think the Stones members believe he was fired, but he thinks he left the band. So right around that time. Now, it's kind of an interesting case / death because he dies in a pool with, I wouldn't even say a friend, with a guy who was working on his house, a construction worker, was last seen in the pool with this guy, and they were pulling pranks on each other, kind of playing rough in the pool. 10 minutes later, he's found at the bottom of the pool, drowned. And so a little backstory, this construction worker was living on the grounds because he's in England. He's a member of the Rolling Stones. He's got a lot of money. He has this big cottage, and I think it's called Cochford Farm is his house. And this guy, Frank Thorogood, was hired to do a lot of work in this old house that was on this property. And really the last thing that went down, this guy was doing, I guess, shoddy work. And a beam that he had put up in the kitchen had almost fallen on Brian Jones's girlfriend. And so Brian Jones is furious because he's like, you could have killed someone, and fires him.
Too.
Yeah, it's really dangerous. Fires him and says, I'm not going to pay you any more money. And so Frank Thorogood, the worker, thinks that he's owed like 6,000 more pounds. And so there's a big disagreement, big falling out. Frank is still living on the property on the day that Brian Jones dies. And Brian Jones, Pisces, so he's got that sensitive, kind of emotional side, feels really bad about the way things fell out between them. So the night of his death, he walks over and invites Frank over for a drink and a swim, because a swimming pool is Brian Jones's favorite place on this property.
Okay.
And Frank comes over with his girlfriend, and Brian and his girlfriend are there. And they're having basically little drinks and then a little bit of a pool party. Frank's girlfriend's inside the house, the main house, and the phone rings. The phone call is for Brian's girlfriend. And so she goes in to take the call. So only people left, Brian Jones, Frank, in the swimming pool. Brian is going underwater, grabbing Frank's legs, pulling him under, pissing the guy off. Frank's clearly pissed at this is what's going on when he's last seen. Next thing you know, 10 minutes later, Anna, Brian's girlfriend, hears a scream outside, which is Frank's girlfriend screaming because Brian's at the bottom of the pool, spread eagle, lifeless. And Anna, running out of the house, happens to see Frank inside the house, dripping wet and trembling, his hands are trembling.
Okay.
So this is kind of something she noted, goes out, she jumps in the water and is trying to get Brian out of the water. Frank finally jumps in and helps. It's kind of weird. He's just kind of standing back.
That is very bizarre.
Yes. And Frank's girlfriend is a nurse, certified nurse. So she starts trying to do CPR, and anyway, ambulance is called. So this is the chart I have at the time he's found. He was not declared dead until after midnight, but he was basically dead when he was pulled out of the pool. So this is the chart that I'm using.
And all of this basically happened in a span of 10 minutes?
Yes.
Roughly. Okay.
Yes. So we will go ahead and start with the first chart. Okay. And I call a death chart legacy chart sometimes. So if you see a chart that says legacy, that's just kind of what I'm meaning there. How's that?
That's good. And that's also probably a nicer thing than what I call my charts with give them stupid names and shit.
Well, if you look at my database, some say death chart, some say, but I try to put legacy, when I have my thoughts together, but on this day at legacy, which I like.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is the chart at 11:50 p.m. when he's found in the pool. And it's
Okay.
July 2nd, 1969. If you look Brian Jones up on Wikipedia, it'll actually have his death as July 3rd because they called it after midnight. But
I noticed that I have the Wikipedia up. If you see me looking down, it's because I'm looking at just to have, just to have it up since you're hosting this one.
of course.
I noticed that. Yeah, it said, yeah. But
Yeah, and I'm gonna stop screen sharing just for a minute because I actually I got a lot of that story and that information from this book, The Murder of Brian Jones, which was written by the girlfriend who was there that night. Oh my God, I read it in a day. Like, I can't put this book down. I don't think it's in print anymore, but you can, half price books each day. I just want to say that's where I got a lot of my reference for the story. Okay, so let's go back to the legacy chart.
Yep.
So here we go. Got a Pisces rising chart. Now, I threw these charts at Ellie just like minutes ago.
Yeah,
spot.
Full disclosure, yeah, I have not actually really looked at them yet.
I love Ellie. Like, she puts up with me. Like, most people would have fired me by now. Like,
No, you're not anything to put up with, please. Please.
I was like, oh
It's
yeah,
a
we're
surprise.
recording. So do you want to start with the ascendant ruler and co-ruler of this one?
I can't. Well, actually, what I know, what stood out to me first is that moon in the 12th intercepted.
Yes.
That's actually what gets my, not that the others aren't important, but that gets my attention first.
Yeah, it's and with the drowning, a moon in the 12th house in a traditionally ruled water house, unseen. You see that with drownings. I feel like often,
Yeah. Well, and the interception, this does kind of, especially, and I mean, like, whenever I see that, even if something doesn't sound fucky with like the story, it still makes, I don't know, there's just something not totally known, perhaps, and even it seems even less that way because it's in the 12th house, and that story is kind of fucky.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Which, by the way, I kind of left this out. Frank at the time acts like he doesn't know what's going on. Even though he's dripping wet, obviously had just been in the pool.
Wait, I'm sorry, it's not funny, but what?
Yeah, I forgot that part of the story. Yeah.
Okay.
And coroners did rule this as misadventure, because Brian Jones did have, well, it's English, it's like basically saying he had an enlarged heart and liver from substance abuse and that this was accidental, and maybe he had too much to drink that night, even though the time of drinking and getting in the pool, there really wasn't a large span of time. He had trouble with the police there for drugs, and he had kind of charges. So they quickly were like, misadventure. He did this to himself.
Okay, so that could be okay. That's starting to okay.
Yes. Sorry. Left that part out. And Frank supposedly, to a close friend, admitted to drowning him. And on supposedly on his deathbed, like decades later, he admitted to killing him. But none of these things are confirmed. And later on, the friend who said, yeah, he confesses to me, changed his story and said he didn't. So he never was charged, and so this is just ruled as an accident, basically.
Okay.
But we have like the last time he's seen, what's happening. And I swear this astrology really plays out what's happening. You got the moon in the 12th, which is representing Brian Jones. You also have Jupiter as the traditional ruler of Brian in this chart.
Mm-hmm.
In between Uranus and Pluto. It's like he's in the middle of this. Anytime you see Pluto, it's kind of like a violent episode or something coming to the surface. Uranus is unpredictable. Can be accidental, but he's wedged in between these planets.
Yeah. Yes, he is. And then let's see. The descendant has Virgo on the cusp. Mercury is Looks like it just left the fourth. It's in the third.
It's in the third, yeah. 21 degrees. This is the way the chart, calculated out. Some of these houses are really small. That fourth house, it looks like it's 23 degrees Gemini. So just barely out of there.
Okay.
Which, Mercury would be either Frank, if we're looking at him as the perpetrator.
Mhm. There is something, this feels very, okay. Frank clearly thought of, I mean, I realized it was Brian's property, but I get the feeling there was some, I don't know how I want to word this. Like he felt like it was his in some way too. That's what this feels like, especially with like the ascendant ruler in the seventh. It's like being on there. Was the pool close to where he lived?
The pool was like right outside Brian's home. That apartment was on the property, like walking. Yeah, it was pretty close in vicinity.
Okay.
I find it interesting because that third house can be like a neighbor
Yeah.
or someone nearby.
Yeah. 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 That makes sense too. It definitely does.
And it feels like the Virgo seventh house, like someone who's in your day-to-day life. I mean, this guy had been, I need to go back and check the facts, but he'd been working on the property for a long time, like months.
Or even somebody who does work for you
work.
or mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
hired hand,
Mm-hmm. Service.
And if you look at Mercury's at 21 degrees.
Yes.
It's squaring Brian, who is Jupiter.
Yeah, it is.
Virgo, and that Pluto Uranus sandwich, that craziness that's going on. I mean, he's definitely in contact.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, he is.
To me, the smoking gun is the eighth house.
Uh-huh.
Because we got Neptune there, which, okay, a drowning. We do know he drowned, and Neptune in the eighth and in Scorpio.
And it's also the modern chart ruler.
Yes.
Too.
Yes. Here's, to me, like, I think this is describing what's happened because you got Mars right there with Neptune. They're about 5 degrees apart. Mars rules the head.
Yes, it does. It does.
When I see this, I'm thinking, here's what must have happened. Brian is going underwater. This is according to his girlfriend's account. Going underwater, pulling Frank's legs, messing with him. I do wonder because Neptune being the modern ruler of Pisces, Pisces rules the feet. I do wonder if Frank puts his foot on Brian's head and keeps him submerged.
That seems possible. That seems likely here.
Just that whole Mars Neptune combination. I just feel like his head is that, or maybe his hands even, because Frank is ruled by Mercury and Gemini. It could be hands too, like keeping your hand, with your hands submerging someone's head.
Could be. That would make sense here. That could make sense here.
So, we have Pluto in that seventh house. Like, okay, there's something kind of violent or fighting kind of going on. Uranus makes me think it's definitely not planned. It's like I'm snapping and I'm doing, and reacting to someone messing with me. And there's already this tension. Earlier.
Like an opportunity.
I think he just gets mad. Like there's already this tension. He feels like Brian owes him money. He's gotten fired. Brian's pissing him off in the pool. And it's just snap.
Yeah, that seems kind of did they find that there were any like drugs in his system beyond just booze?
I believe they only found booze. I could be wrong. There was also, if I remember, like the police kind of admitted the investigation was pretty botched.
Okay. Okay.
And I believe the medical examiner kind of kept things kind of vague, like didn't really look into this as being a homicide. Like they pretty much already ruled it before.
Their judgment.
Yeah.
That I wonder if that's seen with the 10th house Sagittarius on the cusp going into the Jupiter in Virgo.
Mm-hmm.
Because that can,
Yeah, they're blaming it on Brian because they're sharing that same planet.
yeah. Yeah. And that like very, yeah.
Yeah, I just feel like it's so unfair. Like I don't know why I take this one personal, but it's just like it's so unfair because I mean, yeah, Brian Jones has problems. All right, he has substance abuse. He's got things going on, and was messing with Frank and all this kind of stuff. He was also verbally taking shots at him, saying, "Well, I'm a rich rock star, and now you're just a construction worker," and
Kind
taking
of,
some jabs.
yeah.
Which could also pull in that Mercury third house, like the arguing.
It could. It could. That's kind of what I was just thinking. It definitely could. Um, is there a fixed star around that Mercury?
I will look. I know there's a good one around that moon. Let's start.
Do that one and I'll do the Mercury one.
Oh, okay, great.
I brought my book today.
Yay. Me too. Sometimes I have to run off the video and go grab it. Okay, the moon is 24 degrees Aquarius. And this is what's interesting about this one. Words of command, gathering of wealth, a hidden god, love of water, swimming, the arts, communication with birds. But you got like love of water and swimming. Brian Jones like loved this pool. Like it was his favorite thing on that property. His girlfriend talks about how like that's where he wanted to be all the time. And I find it interesting that when this happens, that moon is on that fixed star with love of water and swimming.
That is interesting that it happens to be right there. Oh, let me see. Okay, so the Mercury's at 21 degrees, 15 Gemini. There is one at 21, 28 Gemini. Loquaciousness, accidents, sudden dishonor. Unfortunate for Mars and Mercury.
There you go. Accidents. So really makes me think that Frank didn't mean to kill him or didn't plan on doing it. But it's like he got mad and things went too far.
Yeah. 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 The holding him under by the feet, that is or even by hands, but by feet, that yeah.
Yeah. I think the guy snapped.
Yeah.
Not trying to say he did it. I'm just looking at the astrology, and the astrology makes me think that's what happened.
Probably pretty right on.
And for
Probably.
people saying he did a deathbed confession. I mean, not confirmed, but
Yeah.
yeah.
People do that though if they've done, yeah.
So I also have Brian Jones's birth chart
Okay.
and the transits. Do we want to
Yeah.
kind of look at those just to give a little more information?
Yeah.
Okay. And this is just his birth chart here.
Okay.
There we go. And I use whole sign. I'm such a whole sign slut.
He's also a 12th house moon.
Yes.
It's interesting.
Yeah, not everyone who has 12th house moon is self-sabotaging. But in his case, he had some problems, and kind of if you read his autobiography, I think you can see some 12th house moon stuff popping up.
And then that moon being in the 12th in the last chart is also, I don't know, there's something kind of,
Yeah. I mean, not saying he didn't deserve any of this. Some of it kind of brought on, like he probably should have kept some boundaries with this guy, and
probably would have been boundaries can be a hard thing for
Pisces.
Pisces. Planets in the 12th house, either, you know, them encroaching on other people's boundaries or even other people encroaching on, there's just there can be boundary difficulties with boundaries.
Yeah. Virgo rising, it's kind of common with musicians. And he was, if you know like the Stones history and like study the music, he was such a cool member. He was the one who brought in like so many different instruments to the Stones music, and played them all. He knew like how to play multiple different instruments. So it just kind of makes sense with the Virgo rising and having that, you know, music ability.
Is the Virgo rising in this chart? Is it conjunct the descendant in the other one?
Let's see. So in this chart, it's 13 degrees, Virgo. Yes, good call. I don't even think I caught that. Yes.
I don't know why I caught that, but that's.
Let me see if I can get that other one back up. Good catch. Yeah, so here's the legacy chart, and it's exactly opposite. Yeah.
Damn. Okay.
And the moon in the 12th. Yeah, that similarity.
That's interesting. Just like yeah. Huh.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
it definitely is interesting. Yeah. There we have it. It's his ascendant. He also has that Neptune in the first house.
The love of water.
Love of water. And if you look at the 8th house, you know, in the last chart, we saw Mars in the 8th house. He has 8th house ruler, you know, Mars, and in the sign of Aries. I find that interesting too. There's a lot of kind of similar things going on.
Yeah, there really are. There really are. Also, yeah, that's okay. And then we've got the damn I'm looking at his notes. His fucking north node right on the ascendant like that. That south node right on the damn. That's interesting.
It is. Now he was part of the 27 club. He died at 27. You know, in Hellenistic astrology, at 27, you're in a 4th house perfection year of endings. That might be why you see maybe some famous deaths at 27. I don't know.
It makes sense. Yeah.
I do have the transit set day, or, you know, it's basically putting the legacy and the birth chart together. See what's going on there so we can do a comparison.
Okay.
So yeah, there's that ascendant.
With the south node.
Yeah.
That makes me have thoughts that probably go.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder what the synastry with him and this guy look like.
I would love to know that. I believe I tried to find Frank's birth chart a few years ago and couldn't.
I'm real curious about that though.
Yeah. Don't have the birth time, but you know, we could compare just the planets, you know, what's going on.
Anybody happens to know, let Brandy know.
Find me the chart. You know, while you're looking, I'm going to see if his birth date is available, because we could probably just pull it real quick. So tell me, see if there's anything you find interesting in there while I looked.
Okay, let's see.
No pressure.
His
Take over, Ellie.
His chart ruler. Let's see. He's a Virgo rising. Mercury. Is that Mercury? Yeah, Mercury in the 6th house. I was gonna see if anything was like doing anything to that. I guess Saturn loosely squaring it.
The Mercury.
Yeah, loosely. Transit Saturn, Taurus. It's loose, but coming up on it.
I don't think, yeah, I thought I'd looked this up a few years ago. I cannot find a birth date for Frank. Yeah. So if anyone knows, share it.
That Mars close to his transit Mars close to his IC. The
Yeah.
IC would be at 7 Gemini. I mean, it's again, it's loose, but it's still
It's with an orb, I think, and so
yeah.
my Hellenistic rules, if you look at the sect of the chart, Brian Jones is born when the sun is still up. And for those who don't know, when the sun is above the descendant, which the descendant would be 13 degrees, it's a little bit below, but if it's right there or right above or kind of meeting it, there's still a little bit of sun in the sky. And so when the sun is in the sky, Mars is going to be the most malefic planet. Whereas if it's nighttime and there's no visibility of the sun, it's Saturn. So, to see that he's got Mars going over the 4th house, that's his most malefic planet, it's in that house of endings.
Yeah. And also being the ruler of his 8th.
Yeah.
And it's out of sign, right? But it is like his Mars is at 26, Taurus. So it is, I mean, it's out of sign, but it's still like within like, the 5 degrees applying and separating that I'll usually look at. It's kind of interesting too.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Don't know if this is stretching it. I mean, Neptune's a very long transit, but it's over his 3rd house, in Scorpio. That 3rd house is like communication. Neptune can kind of, it can, you can either like talk shit with it. Some people lie. Some people just have like maybe speech issues. Like, I don't know. I just feel like,
know what they're saying.
Yeah. I feel like his mouth is getting him in trouble a little bit during this time, which,
Yeah. Well, what is that Neptune doing with, let's see. I'm just curious what else it's at 26.
It's at 26. It's sextile his natal Neptune, which that's generational.
Opposite Uranus. I know that's also.
It's exactly opposite Mars.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. And Uranus. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
the Mars
drowning,
Yeah, and the Mars one probably matters more because that Neptune, Neptune is a long, like you said, it's a longer transit. So, and Uranus also doesn't move as fast.
No, but it's such a tight, like you got Mars Uranus in his chart, like exactly, which he was very impulsive in nature.
I was gonna say he doesn't seem like he was the most.
No, and I'm not trying to character set. I love Brian Jones. I love this guy.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, he had substance abuse issues. He had like multiple children with multiple people. Like after he died, it was found that he had a bunch of kids that were put up for adoption. Like, because at the time, a lot of women, if they were unwed and were pregnant, child went up for adoption. Like there was, I guess, some children found that way. Yeah. So yeah, he had a little impulsive in nature, had a good time.
And there's something, and I didn't, like I said, like you mentioned, I didn't really have a chance to look at this, but there's something about transit Venus right by Mars, Uranus, and even, close to Saturn. That bugs me.
Well, yeah. I know like when you're looking at like the legacy chart and kind of seeing what's going on, or maybe in this case, there's definitely, issues with money at hand, like with this guy as well. So I don't know if you want to pull that in, but
yeah, there's, Venus is, typically thought of as so nice, but here it doesn't feel nice.
No, I mean, it's right there with Uranus and Mars. Yeah, it's that can go a lot of different ways. It can definitely be like indulgent. You get the Mars Uranus combination. I feel like it can like, how do I want to say this? Kind of take some of the harmony and love out of Venus. It's like bringing Venus to their side, because Venus and Mars kind of in some ways opposite, right? And I don't know if it's just kind of a bad influence on Venus there.
And Venus is also, at home in Taurus, so it's strong, right? Like it's
and Mars is in detriment,
yeah.
What was your kind of impression of what's happening with Venus?
Well, this is something that I would want to sit, but it just doesn't feel nice.
No,
it just doesn't feel nice like Venus and Taurus. We tend to think of Venus and Taurus, right? We tend to think of it, but this does not feel nice. I don't like that. I don't know.
So yeah, Venus and Taurus is very strong. But I mean, if we think about Taurus, like maybe some of the I don't want to say negative qualities, but negative qualities of Taurus, like possessive, jealous,
stubborn,
fixed. Yeah. I'm looking at what and Taurus, so I'm not saying anyone natally with that is jealous, possessive, but
well, yeah, but all these planets have, they can express themselves in the positive ways or in the challenging, all kinds of ways.
Yeah.
This here just doesn't. It doesn't feel, yeah. And then, also, some of it might also be Mars being the ruler or one of the rulers of his third house. I don't know. It just the communication thing. I don't know. It could have been, maybe he made some kind of, and this again, like you've said, it does not excuse, it does not, nobody deserves what, regardless of what the person that's getting that pissed just needs to remove themselves from the situation.
You count to 10. Yes.
Yeah. But I do wonder if perhaps he made some comment about perhaps money or values, or maybe this guy felt very, 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 maybe he said something very quickly and it made this guy feel incredibly devalued or something. And yeah.
I mean, his girlfriend, there's a witness saying he said, I'm a big rich rock star and you're this. So it probably didn't end there.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm wondering if he said that, what did he say when everybody was gone?
Yeah, it may have got worse with the ladies gone,
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll say this because there's always something going on with the chart ruler when people die, it seems. His chart ruler, which is Mercury, is in the home sign.
Yeah.
The time he dies. So just always like to point those things out. Not saying every time your chart ruler's in its home sign, because Mercury goes into Gemini every year. But there does seem to be a pattern that, the chart ruler is either at home and detriment, exalted. Like there's something like interesting going on with the chart ruler, usually at the time of death.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, wait, no, that's in the sky. Sorry. You had mentioned before something about the part of fortune with Jupiter.
Yeah, so his part of fortune's in the 8th house in Aries. Jupiter at the time is in Virgo, so not quite an option. What about?
I'm dumb. I was looking at the transit.
Yeah, and I am surprised though. I am surprised nothing's happening to his part of fortune during this time. So I don't. Yeah. Where's the ruler? See, the ruler would be Mars. You got Saturn in the same sign. You do have Jupiter trining the ruler.
You do.
It might have something to do with it as well.
The only reason I brought that up is because I noticed that I wouldn't looking at two charts sometimes I'm like, duh.
Oh yeah, I get mixed up. I absolutely do that all the time. And as viewers know, I will call the South Node the North Node, and I got Saturn squaring my Mercury. I screw things up out when I'm talking. It's a lifelong condition. I can't do anything about it. Any final thoughts about these charts?
Very,
I
very.
will say he was sorry. I asked you a question, then I interrupt you. I'm so sorry.
Go ahead.
I just saw he's in like a nodal opposition, but a pretty wide degree, but still.
Yeah, but yes, it would be yeah.
Okay, go ahead with your thought. I promise I won't interrupt.
I was gonna say super interesting charts. Very well illustrate. It sounds like what happened and the idea that you had makes sense to me.
Yeah, I think it was an unfortunate event that night. Either way, but yes. I do have a blog on my website more about this that I wrote like 4 years ago. It goes more into the detail of the story. Might have more astrology. I don't know. I think I covered everything. But anyway, I will link it in the description if anyone wants to go by and read it. Ellie, please let us know where we can find you.
Okay, y'all can find me on my website at saturnseason.com. You can find me on Instagram at Saturn Season Astrology, and you can find me on YouTube at Saturn Season Astrology. And Brandy, I know we're on your channel, but where can you be found?
Find me here or find me online, Brandy Burrow Astrology.com. Ellie, aren't you teaching some astrology classes? Is that a thing?
Yes, I am. Oh, I wasn't sure if I should even say.
Please, yeah, of course.
Yeah. It's called the Fundamentals of Chart Weaving. This is the third year that I've done it. I can't believe this will be the third year. But yeah, it's a 16-week course, goes into everything that I think is fundamental to reading a chart.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And I've got to sit in on some of Ellie's classes. I got to be like the what do you call that? Like
subject.
The subject.
The tribute.
It was so awesome. Like, yeah, it's good stuff, guys. Go check it out.
And I might be hitting you up to do it again this year.
I'm here. I always love outside perspectives. Like, tell me more. Yes.
Thanks for letting me mention that stuff here.
Of course. Well, thanks everyone. If you happen to like this video, give us a like, a subscribe, go to Ellie's channel, do the same thing to hers. It does let us know if you like the content. So, and we feel appreciated.
Yes. It's nice to feel appreciated.
All right. Thank you, Ellie. Thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you next time.